Hello, I'm Bretton, one of our MCAT tutors here at Inspira Advantage, where we help students get into med school and other professional programs. Language is a complex and multifaceted phenomenon that has been studied by linguists, psychologists, and neuroscientists for many years. And importantly, understanding language is very high yield for the psych-soc section on the MCAT. One way to think about language is to break it down into its component parts using vocabulary. As you know, the psych-soc section is very vocab heavy, so in this section, we're going to be going over all of the high-yield vocab as well as the high-yield concepts surrounding language that you need to know for the MCAT. I highly recommend putting this information into Anki cards so that way you have the long-term retention when it comes to your exam. Let's jump into the vocab. We're going to start off with the building blocks of words here, starting with phonology. Phonology refers to the actual sounds of speech, including the rules that govern how sounds can be combined to form words. For example, that'd be like f, t, b, like sound parts within the word. So we're not at a full word yet. Then we're going to move up to morphology. Morphology is concerned with the building blocks of words, including morphemes, which are the smallest units of meaning, and they can be combined to form more complex words. Semantics is the study of meaning in language, including the meaning of individual words and the relationships between them. So for semantics, think meaning, whereas syntax, you should think about the rules, because syntax is referring to the rules that dictate word order and how we can form words in sentences. It's because of syntax that we have to worry about things like nouns, adjectives, and adverbs, whereas semantics is more just caveman speak. Semantics will still get the point across, but without syntax, it doesn't sound like a language. For example, just using syntax would be me saying, me hungry, me angry. Whereas syntax, I would say, who, I am hungry, I am hungry, I am angry. And finally, we have pragmatics. Pragmatics is concerned with changes in language delivery depending on the context, such as the social and cultural factors that influence how we use language in everyday situations. For example, you might speak differently to your grandmother than you would to a teacher or to a little kid. This is the pragmatics behind language. Now, let's jump into something a little bit more conceptual, the theories of language development. So these have been proposed to explain how we acquire language. And there are three main theories that have been proposed. The nativist or biological theory is the first one we'll talk about. This theory suggests that language acquisition is innate and that humans are born with an inherent ability to learn language. According to this theory, the human brain has a specialized language acquisition device that allows us to learn language quickly and effortlessly. Next up, we have the learning or behaviorist theory of language acquisition. This theory suggests that language acquisition is controlled by operant conditioning and reinforcement by parents and caregivers. In other words, children are learning language by imitating the language they hear around them and by being rewarded for using the language. Finally, the social interactionist theory proposes that language acquisition is caused by motivation to communicate or interact with others. According to this theory, children learn language by interacting with others and being exposed to a variety of language-rich environments. This is the most adorable theory of language development. Essentially, it's just saying that young kids and toddlers just really want to communicate, so they learn a language to do so. Now, let's switch side to an even more conceptual side of language, starting with the Whorfian hypothesis. Now, this is a very interesting hypothesis, also known as linguistic relativity. Essentially, it's suggesting that the lens by which we view and interpret the world is created by the languages we know and speak. In other words, the languages we speak influence the way we think about the world around us. For example, some languages have more words to describe different colors than others, and speakers of those languages may perceive and categorize colors differently than speakers of languages with fewer color terms. Another classic example given is of Eskimos having multiple words for different types of snow, so they can perceive different types of snow, whereas somebody who maybe just knows English would only have a few ways of describing snow, and therefore not even perceive that there's a difference in snow. It's a very interesting hypothesis. Now we're going to shift gears a little bit into the neurobiology of language, specifically talking about the brain regions involved in language. Starting up, we have Broca's area, which is located in the left frontal lobe and is responsible for producing speech. We also have Wernicke's area, which is located in the left temporal lobe and is responsible for language comprehension. Connecting the two, we have the arcuate fasciculus, which is a bundle of fibers that connects Broca's area and Wernicke's area, allowing for communication between these two regions. So we take a look at these. We see Broca's area, as I said, in the left frontal lobe, and Wernicke's the left temporal lobe. Notice they're both on the same side, and on the left side of the brain for the MCAT. There is debate on if this moves around. And connecting them, shown with red fibers here, is the arcuate fasciculus. So essentially, without that fasciculus, the Broca's area and Wernicke's area can't talk to each other. So it's almost like severing the connection between the two. Why are we talking about this? Because we're about to jump into something called aphasia. Aphasia is a language deficit that can result from damage to various parts of the brain. And as you might guess by this next one, Broca's aphasia is caused by damaging Broca's area. Well, since Broca's area is in charge of speech, Broca's aphasia results in a difficulty of generating speech, while Wernicke's aphasia causes a lack of comprehension. Now, very, very interestingly, when we damage the arcuate fasciculus, we get conduction aphasia. During conduction aphasia, the patient has difficulty repeating words, even though the patient may be able to understand and produce speech to some extent. They just don't understand what they're saying. Very interesting. To do well on the language component of the psych-soc section, you'll have to understand these key vocab words and concepts. The theory of language development has been proposed to explain how we acquire languages, and we also want to remember that there are different brain regions involved in language production and comprehension. Understanding these topics will help you score your best on test day. I want to thank you so much for watching our video on language, and I will see you next time.